guys, and welcome back to another video on Home and Marriage with Latoya. Today, Garfield will be joining me, and we have some very important information for you. Alright, so with the crisis and everything that's going on around us, I know that some of us are deeply affected by the pandemic, and sometimes we might find ways of coping with our stress or the crisis. But what about our children? How are they coping? How are they surviving during this time? Even though they might look like they are okay, but are they really okay? How are your children doing? Alright, so I don't know if I mentioned in previous videos that I am a certified mental health first aider, and Garfield is a certified mental health youth instructor, right?
Yes, mental health youth first aid instructor.
Okay, can you tell us more about what that means?
Yeah, and what that entails is that what we do, a youth mental health first aid instructor teach first aiders, youth mental health first aiders. And what it is that we train adults who interact with youths, adults who care for youths, whether it be teachers, a youth leader, mother, father, grandparents, whoever it is that deals with youth. We teach them to look for signs, possible signs that a youth might be experiencing having a mental health issue or is going through a mental health crisis. Again, we are not psychologists, we're not psychiatrists, we're not trained to diagnose and say this child is going through having this mental illness or that mental illness. But we're trained to identify, we're first aiders, we're trained to identify that when something is wrong, something's off. Just as how we are CPR, for example, if someone have cardiac arrest, and we know the signs, we start applying CPR, and we don't go and cut their heart and start stitching up their heart and start doing all those surgery. We don't do that. We're not trained doctors. It's the exact same thing with mental health first aiders. We assure the youths that we're there for them, we listen, stuff like that, and we try to give self-help methods that they can use to put in place to help them. And then if those things doesn't work and it's a situation that is really a crisis, we encourage adults to get help from a trained professional, a psychiatrist, psychologist, a therapist, a counselor. We are not trained in that regard. But as I mentioned, that this time is it's very serious. It's very traumatic, and I believe it's more traumatic on our youths more than we realize. And again, a trauma is distressing. I mean, it's stressful. It's disruptive, and it causes more problems than we think. There's a research some scientists did a few years ago called ACEs. It's called adverse childhood experiences, where they say that youths, when they go through traumatic experiences or have adverse experiences, the more adverse experiences they have, the more likely it is for them later in life to have emotional, mental health issues, emotional disorders, or even physical ailments, issues, diseases like heart problems, diabetes. Because what happened, while the mind may forget, the body never forgets. The body never forgets in the sense that when a person is fearful, the body naturally, releases hormones to help the body, to either for fight or flight. Yeah. So, and if a child is constantly feeling fearful, the body over time is going to adjust. The heart is going to constantly be beating more than it ought to be, or excessive, or sugar, pancreas, insulin in pancreas might overwork over time, and that later in life may lead to diabetes or lead to heart issues. So we can help our youths as they go through this time to deal better with the traumatic, the trauma that comes with this COVID-19, pandemic that we're currently facing. And so what we're going to be doing in this video, we're going to be showing you just talking about the possible signs that a youth might be going through a mental health mental crisis, or are there some change, or they're getting there, and we can look at signs again, mental health again, psychological well-being, which affects how a person behave on a daily basis, the activities that they normally conduct or are involved in, how are they changing, and also the relationships. So those are two areas you can look at: relationship with each other in the home, with you, siblings, however it is. And the next part is just that, what are they doing? Are their behaviors changing? So we're going to look at some of the behaviors and some way in which they interact, which may be signs that something is wrong. So we know what they were before this pandemic, before this traumatic situation came up. We know what they were like. You know what your kid was like. I know what my kid was like. So as you're going through this, are you seeing any changes? And sometimes they mask it, as Dr. I will talk about later on. Sometimes it can be masked. So it's very important that we pay attention, to our youth as they go through this time. All right, so we're going to talk about some different signs that we can look for and in different age group.
All right, so I'm going to be giving some tips, and this can serve for caregivers. If you're a caregiver, if you're a parent or a teacher, you can use these tips. Now, let me say this first. I'm not saying that these tips are tailor-made to every child. Your child might not experience any of these, but these are just some common, some general tips that we can use.
And the signs are also generalities,
Right. All right, so I'm going to be looking at youths in 3 different stages. The first stage that I'm going to be looking at is the stage 0 to 5 years old. All right, so kids in this stage, sometimes they might start wetting their bed, so they're regressing in behavior. They might start wetting their bed again, and they might start asking you to dress them or to feed them. They might not want to leave their home because that's where they feel the safest, and they might become fearful of monsters, of people, like visitors. They might be fearful of diseases, sicknesses, and they might not want to be around anybody else, just their present family. Okay? So that's age 0 to 5 years old. The next stage is 6 to 10 years old. And the
signs.
Some of the signs that we spoke about previously for 0 to 5, you might see these stemming over into age 6 to 10 years old. They might have trouble paying attention. They might also not want to do any chores or work at home. They also might want you to dress them and feed them. They might want to cuddle more. They might want more attention from you. And these are just a few of the signs.
Yeah, I know there are some who didn't want the chores from day one, but if it becomes excessive, or they used to do it and don't want to do it, we're looking for changes. We're looking for changes, and the changes don't necessarily mean that okay, they're going through a crisis, but it could be a sign. It could be a sign. The same way I may have shorter breath doesn't mean I'm having a heart attack. It means that I've been running and I'm just tired. So for the youth, it doesn't mean that they're going through this because they don't want to do chores. It could be other reasons, but just be aware that it's possible.
Like, you should know your child.
Right.
You know whether what temperament your child has, whether they were always okay with doing chores, and if it's a case where they just stop, then you know that there's something there. There's something wrong there. But if it's a child who never really wanted to do chores in the first place, then that's normal for that child, So you know your child best, so judge them based on what you know. All right, so the last stage is age 11 to 19. And for this stage, it's even more difficult because at this stage, the youths are going through a more emotional change during naturally. The hormones are kicking in. They're entering into adolescence, so it's gonna be a bit more difficult to identify in this stage for them and for you. One, because they might not be able to express fully what they're feeling, and two, they might not want you to know what they're feeling. They might get angry with you if you ask, "Are you okay?" Or they might just be silent. They don't know what to say or how to say it.
And it's I think it's more difficult for this group because they understand more what's happening, the more they understand what's happening. Some may say it's easier for them, but it can also be more difficult for them, because they find themselves in a situation where I understand that mommy might lose her job, or dad may lose his job, or dad is going to work and dad may go out and get COVID-19 and may become sick and may die. They understand that fully. And that fear can cripple them more than a 0 to 5 who have an idea something is wrong, you know? So for them, it can be a very traumatic time for teenagers. And then, you know, boys especially, you know, may want to be macho, and they may not want to talk, don't want to seem as though they are soft or they are wimps, and so they they might not talk, and may internalize a lot of, you know, what is going on, but the fear is still there. Right. The anxiety is still there.
And I was just about to mention that anxiety manifested as physical pain can show up. They might have chest pains or headaches or not eating, you know, or just feel lousy, you know, just want to lounge around and not wanting to participate in like family activities and so on. So those are some other signs that you can look out for.
A normal interest that they had, you know, games, you know, just, you know, stuff like that.
And they might even want to argue more. You know, they might want to argue more because they fully can't express what's going on, and you're now asking them, are you okay? And all they want you to do is just to leave them alone.
But they really don't want you to. They really don't want you to, though. They may behave like they want you to, but they really don't want you to. That's when they need us the most. So what we're going to talk about now, we're going to talk about strategies that you can use as a parent, a guardian, to one, not to try to prevent your child from getting into that crisis zone, and then what you can do if they get in a crisis zone. Because if they're in a crisis zone and what we're going to suggest is not working, you need to find professional help, which we're going to leave in
the description
bar below. So we're going to talk about some things that you can do.
All right, so the first thing that we have that you can do is pay attention and be a good listener. If you listen very carefully to your children, whether they're playing, reading, talking, writing, drawing, if you pay special attention, you can see what's going on in that child's mind. So pay attention. And if they want to talk to you, make sure that you have time to really sit down and listen. Going into my second point, allow them to ask questions. So if they want to talk to you or if they want to ask questions, don't shy down. Don't be afraid to talk to them. But I would recommend limiting the amount of details that you give to them. You don't want to scare them. You want them to still feel safe. You still want them to know that they are secure. Okay? So make sure that you talk to them. And if you want, you can also watch news updates with them. But still limit the amount of time that they watch. And surrounding your family discussions, make sure that it's not too long, or every family discussion is about the COVID-19. Try not to do that.
And if they ask you a question and you don't have the answer, be honest, you don't have the answer. And if it's an answer that you believe you can get, you call someone, a friend, a family member, your pastor, teacher, whoever it is, and just share and just see if you can get some answer, some response that may possibly be useful in helping, you know, your child.
All right, tip number 3, encourage positive activities. All right, so here is where you can talk about all the heroic actions that's going on around us. Whether you want to talk about the doctors, the nurses, essential workers, they are putting their lives on the line for all of us. Now, what you can do is also encourage your child. They can play their part in making sure that they wash their hands with soap and water. They can stay 6 feet apart if they need to. If you guys go out, make sure that you're 6 feet apart. Wear a face mask. Don't go out too often. Whether you're going to the grocery store, what do they recommend? Once per week. So play your part in that heroic action also. So it's not just the doctors and the nurses and essential workers that can be heroic at this time. You can also play your part. And tip number 4, model self-care. So children live what they learn, and children learn what they live. And they're going to be looking up to you. So right now, you are their hero. They're looking at what you do. They're looking at how you react to this COVID-19 and the crisis and everything that's going on around us. So make sure that you are sleeping well at night. Make sure that you have a healthy diet, you're exercising, and you're taking care of yourself.
And we're human beings as adults, and we're gonna be fearful at times, we're gonna be anxious at times. But it's very important that we learn how to deal with our anxiety. It's very important to learn to deal with our frustration. And we can't just be lashing out at the least thing. We have to learn to deal with emotions, the different areas of emotion that has been coming and will come during this time. We have to, because our kids are watching us and they feed off us. A 2-year-old child can sense an emotional change in an adult, not more so a child who is 14, 15, 16. They can sense it, and sometimes they feed off of how we respond emotionally. So we have to practice self-care. We have to be a bit more sacrificial. It's going to might be difficult, maybe asking some of us as parents to come out of our norm, in terms of how we express ourselves, but for the sake of our kids, we have to do it.
Yes.
When we're calm and we seem to be in control, our kids respond to it. So we have to learn to model it. That behavior might be difficult. And for me, there are some things about me I have to change and model, so.
And sometimes we have to hold it in, and model that behavior until we get into our bedroom, break down or so on, and just get it back together, just for the kids' sake. Sometimes we have to do that.
Like you take the picture, your stomach
like
is
Superman.
Big, and your stomach is puffed out, and you suck it into the picture, and picture it. So we have to we have to model it for them, and that's what seriously, not serious now, but that's what love really is. Love doesn't necessarily mean that you always want the thing, but love means that we're gonna do this thing because of a greater purpose, or because of the person. You're esteeming the need of your kid above your need. I'm not saying every single second of the day we're gonna do it, but in these instances and in certain instances, we have to do it. That's what love is. It doesn't mean.
And we're not saying that you can be vulnerable before your kids too. But if every day you're getting up crying and worrying, that's what we're saying not to do.
Right.
So let's say that you see some of these signs. You have identified some of these signs, and you feel like
which possibly may be that they are,
right. Which possibly may be that they need help. And you feel like you cannot deal with this on your own. Now, there are some ways in which you can deal with this. What we would recommend is that, 1, you find a professional. Find a professional mental health service.
And there are many out there.
Right, that can help you. What we'll be doing, we will be leaving some of these hotlines in the description box below for your convenience.
Right. And I want to share with you guys, we are Christians, and our hope is in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's where our hope really is, to be honest. And in it, there's a kind of a comfort that we get, in just going to the Bible, reading the Bible, and just believing that there is a better tomorrow coming, that this too shall pass. And I just believe that what we do as we go through this will determine what happened at the end. When we're going to get through this, or what we do going through it will determine what happened when we get out, how we are when we get out. We can choose to stay in it and go around in circle. We can stay in it and go down, or we can be in it and decide, what I'm going to learn from it, and we can fall upward. Make sense? So let us
explain fall upward.
Fall upward means that you're at a bad place, but this bad place that you're at is while you're hit down, you're gonna get up back, because this thing and propel you forward to become a better person.
Alright, so guys, that's the video for today. I hope that you can use some of these tips and advice that we have shared with you. And I don't remember if I mentioned earlier that the information that I gave you is from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA. I'm going to leave that in the description bar below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss another video. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.